Imagine this, a peaceful ranch by a sparkling lake, your dream escape, until one nosy HOA Karen spots your for sale sign and dials 911, screaming about violations that don't exist. But what if her petty call backfires spectacularly, and you turn the tables by snatching up her precious lot right next door, sealing it off forever? Stick around, because this revenge plot gets wildly satisfying. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dive into the craziest HOA nightmares and epic comebacks. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale of Karens getting owned. Like this video if you've ever dealt with a meddling neighbor, and let's jump right into today's story that'll have you cheering. It all started on a crisp autumn morning in the sprawling community of Willow Creek Estates, a gated enclave where manicured lawns stretched like green carpets under the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. I'd inherited my grandfather's old ranch-style home about 5 years back, a rambling two-story with wraparound porches and a private lake out back that shimmered like a sapphire under the sun. The lake wasn't huge, maybe an acre or so, fed by a natural spring and surrounded by willows that whispered in the breeze. It was my sanctuary, stocked with bass and trout, perfect for lazy afternoons casting lines or just sitting on the dock with a cold beer, watching eagles soar overhead. The property sat on the edge of the HOA's jurisdiction, technically outside their strict covenants because Grandpa had bought it before the association formed. But that didn't stop them from eyeing it like a hawk. My name's Alex Harlan, and at 42, life had finally dealt me a winning hand after years of grinding in the city as a software engineer. The divorce from my ex had left me with a hefty settlement, enough to quit the rat race and focus on flipping properties for fun and profit. That's why I decided to put the ranch on the market. It wasn't hurting for cash, but a developer had approached me with an offer that could net 7 figures easy. And honestly, the isolation was starting to wear thin. I wanted something closer to town, maybe with a view of the city lights instead of just coyotes howling at midnight. So, I hired a local realtor named Tina, a sharp woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense bob and a Rolodex full of high rollers. We staged the place impeccably. Fresh wildflowers from the meadow, the kitchen gleaming with granite counters, and that lake? We turned it into the crown jewel, with photos of sunsets reflecting off the water that made Zillow listings pop like fireworks. The sign went up on a Friday. For sale, secluded ranch paradise with private lake, 1.2 miles OBO. I figured it'd sell in weeks, maybe less, but Willow Creek wasn't your average suburb. It was ruled by the iron fist of the Homeowners Association, led by none other than Karen Whitaker, the queen bee of busybodies. Karen was in her late 50s with a helmet of blonde hair that never moved in the wind, yoga pants that screamed "I shop at Lululemon," and a minivan plastered with bumper stickers about neighborhood watch and "Keep our community beautiful." She lived in a cookie-cutter colonial 2 doors, down from the community clubhouse. Her husband, a mild-mannered accountant who trailed behind her like a shadow, and their 2 college kids who only showed up for holidays looking mortified. Karen chaired every committee, architectural review, landscaping, even the blasted holiday light patrol. If your mailbox leaned even an inch, she'd have a fine slapped on you faster than you could say HOA dues. I'd crossed paths with her before, mostly polite waves at the annual picnic where she handed out agendas like gospel, but deep down I knew she resented my place. It was the wild card in her perfect puzzle. No HOA sticker on my fence, no monthly fees draining my wallet, and that lake? Oh, she coveted it. I'd overheard her once at a block party, cooing to a friend about how unfair it was that some folks got extras without paying into the pot. Little did I know, my for sale sign was the match that lit her fuse. The trouble brewed on day 3. Tina had scheduled a showing for a young couple from Denver, tech bros with dreams of weekend getaways. I was out front trimming the hedges to make everything shipshape when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Not the sleek SUV of potential buyers, but Karen's minivan pulling up like a storm cloud. She hopped out, clipboard in hand, her face twisted into that signature Karen scowl, lips pursed, eyes narrowed behind oversized sunglasses. She marched right up, waving a printed copy of the HOA bylaws like a talisman. "Mr. Harlan," she barked, though we both knew she meant to intimidate. "This sign is a violation. It's obstructing the view from the common area path and you haven't submitted for approval." I chuckled, explaining for the umpteenth time that my property predated the HOA. Covenants be damned. But she wasn't having it. "It's an eyesore," she hissed. "And that lake of yours?" "It's drawing wildlife into the neighborhood. Raccoons in my garbage again last night." I bit my tongue, reminding her the lake was on my land, private as a vault. She stormed off muttering about taking this to the board, and I shrugged it off as typical busybody nonsense. That afternoon, Tina texted me, "Showing went great, offer incoming." I was buzzing, cracking open a celebratory IPA on the porch as the sun dipped low, painting the lake in hues of orange and pink. Peaceful, right? Wrong. At exactly 6:47 p.m., blue and red lights flashed in my rear view as I glanced out the window. A county sheriff's cruiser idled at the end of my drive, and there was Karen, standing beside it like she'd won the lottery, pointing emphatically at my sign. My stomach dropped. What the hell? I stepped out, hands visible because you never know with cops these days, and the deputy, a burly guy named Ramirez with a mustache that screamed 70s cop show, approached cautiously. "Evening, sir. Got a call about a suspicious structure on the property. Ma'am here says it's unauthorized and possibly hazardous." Karen piped up from the sidelines, her voice shrill as a tea kettle. "That for sale sign is a billboard. And the lake, it's a mosquito breeding ground, a public health risk." Ramirez eyed her skeptically, then turned to me. I explained the situation calmly, showing him the deed that proved my exemption from HOA rules. He nodded, took a statement, and within 20 minutes he was back in his cruiser advising Karen that this was a civil matter, not criminal. "No laws broken here, ma'am. Have a good night." She slunk away defeated, but I could see the venom in her glare. That night I couldn't sleep. The what-ifs churning like the spring feeding my lake. What if she kept escalating? What if she scared off buyers with her drama? By morning I was fuming, scrolling Zillow absent-mindedly when an ad popped up. Lot 47, adjacent to mine, owned by none other than Karen Whitaker herself. It was a vacant parcel she'd bought years ago as an investment, a half-acre sliver with direct access to my lake's shoreline, the only public-ish path to the water in that stretch, though it was all my property line. She'd never built on it, just mowed it sporadically, but rumors swirled she planned a guest house or rental to pad her nest egg. An idea sparked, dark and delicious. What if I bought it, snatched it right from under her, then fenced it solid, blocking any access she thought she had? It wouldn't just be petty revenge. It'd be legal armor, ensuring no future Karens could peek or poke. I called Tina immediately. "Forget selling the ranch for now. Let's make an offer on Lot 47, all cash, over asking." She laughed, thinking I was joking, but when I explained the beef with Karen, she got it. "Oh, honey, that's gold. I'll draw up the papers." The offer went in that afternoon. $250K, sight unseen, no contingencies. Karen's listing agent called back in hours, stunned but eager. It was a steal for the location. Closing would take 2 weeks, but escrow locked it down. I kept quiet, playing the long game while showings for my ranch continued. Buyers loved the place, but whispers started. Heard there's drama with the neighbor. One couple even backed out, citing community tensions. I seethed but held steady, watching Karen strut around like she owned the world, oblivious to the noose tightening. As the days ticked by, tension simmered. Karen ramped up her campaign, plastering the community Facebook group with posts about preserving our views and anonymous tips to the board about my encroaching foliage. The sheriff's visit had emboldened her. She started patrolling my fence line at dusk, snapping photos like a paparazzo. One evening I caught her from my kitchen window, binoculars in hand, scribbling notes on her pad. It was creepy, invasive, the kind of thing that makes you double-check your locks. I resisted the urge to confront her. No, this was bigger. This was checkmate. Closing day arrived like a gift. Tina met me at the title company, papers signed in a blur of ink and small talk. Lot 47 was mine, free and clear. That weekend I hired a crew, heavy equipment for grading, surveyors to mark every inch of the boundary, and a fencing company specializing in no-climb chain link topped with barbed wire, 8 feet high, impenetrable as Fort Knox. They worked fast, the rumble of bulldozers echoing through the valley as they cleared a 10-foot buffer along the lake access point. Karen drove by mid-morning, slamming on brakes, her face paling as she realized what was happening. She leaped out, waving her arms like a traffic cop gone mad. "Stop, that's my lot. You can't..." But the foreman, a grizzled vet named Hank, just held up the deed copy. "Ma'am, this is Mr. Harlan's property now. Legally yours no more." She sputtered, dialing her agent on speaker, voice cracking with outrage. How I had it listed. "This is fraud." The agent, poor soul, stammered through explanations of the all-cash offer she couldn't refuse. Karen hung up, glaring daggers at me as I leaned on my truck, arms crossed, a smirk I couldn't suppress. "Enjoy the view while it lasts, Karen," I said coolly, my first words to her since the cop fiasco. "Oh, and next time you call the law on nothing, remember, actions have consequences." The fence went up in a day, a steel wall severing her imagined pathway to the lake. No more peeking through the willows. No more accidental trespasses for her book club walks. My ranch felt fortified, the lake truly private now. But this was just the opening salvo. Word spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. Texts, group chats, the works. The board called an emergency meeting. And Karen, ever the drama llama, positioned herself as the victim, rallying allies with tales of my aggression. Little did she know, I had receipts, emails, photos of her patrols, even a dashcam clip of the sheriff's visit. I wasn't done. The real fun was about to unfold. As the sun set on that first week of ownership, I sat on my dock, rod in hand, the new fence a silent sentinel. Fish tugged at the line, but my mind raced ahead. Karen's lot was barren now, a blank canvas, and I had plans that would make her blood boil. But that's a tale for the next chapter, where the HOA bites back, or tries to. Anyway, the emergency board meeting at the Willow Creek clubhouse was a circus from the jump. Folding chairs scraping on linoleum as residents filed in, buzzing with the gossip that had fermented over coffee clatches and dog walks. Karen had pulled out all stops. Emails blast sent to every inbox, a petition circulating like contraband. Even flyers tucked under wipers decrying the Harlan menace. She stood at the podium in a power blazer, hair fluffed to perfection, clutching a stack of printouts that could choke a horse. "Fellow homeowners," she intoned, voice quivering with rehearsed indignation. "Our serene community is under siege. Mr. Harlan's unauthorized purchase and that eyesore fence aren't just an affront. They're a declaration of war on our shared values." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, a mix of nods from her loyalists and eye rolls from the skeptics. The board president, a retired dentist named Hal with a comb-over that defied gravity, called for calm. But Karen plowed on, projecting grainy photos of the construction, trucks, dirt piles, my crew in hard hats, painting it as environmental Armageddon. That lake was accessible for wildlife viewing. Now it's walled off like a prison yard. And the noise, the disruption to our peace. She conveniently omitted her own role in the sheriff call, framing me as the lone villain in this Shakespearean farce. I wasn't there, of course. No invite extended, which suited me fine. Instead, I monitored from afar, sipping black coffee on my porch as Tina forwarded the live stream link from a sympathetic neighbor. The comments in the chat were gold. "Karen's at it again. Let the man have his privacy. This HOA is a joke." But her pitch worked on some. The snowbirds who wintered elsewhere and swallowed her spin hole. The newbies desperate to fit in. By meeting's end, they'd voted unanimously. A cease and desist letter to me, demanding fence removal within 30 days. Citing aesthetic impact on adjacent properties. Bluff, pure and simple, since Lot 47 fell under the same pre-HOA exemption as my ranch. But it was a gauntlet thrown, and Karen preened like she'd slayed a dragon. Her victory lap didn't last. The next morning, my mailbox held the letter, gold-embossed HOA seal and all, typed in legalese that screamed overcompensation. I laughed, scanning it to my lawyer, a shark named Elena who'd handled my divorce and lived for underdog fights. "This is weaker than decaf," she emailed back. Counter with a nuisance complaint on her harassment. "We've got evidence." And we did. Timestamps from my Ring cameras capturing her driveway stakeouts, audio of her shouting at the crew, even neighbor affidavits from folks tired of her reign of terror. But retaliation wasn't just legal jabs. I had bigger fish to fry, or rather bigger builds. With Lot 47 secured, I dove into permits for a modest expansion. A guest cabin overlooking the lake, nothing flashy, just a 800-square-foot A-frame with solar panels and a hot tub. It'd be my weekend retreat once the ranch sold, a thumb in Karen's eye every time she glanced over. The county approved it in days, rural zoning, no sweat, and I broke ground quietly, timing it for maximum irritation. Early Saturdays, when her yoga class let out. The rumble of the excavator hit like a thunderclap. Karen burst from her back door in robe and slippers, phone aloft, filming the intrusion for her evidence file. She paced the property line, now that steel barrier, yelling futilely at the operators. "This is harassment." "I'll sue." Hank, my foreman, just waved from the cab, unfazed. By noon, footings were poured, the skeleton of walls rising like a middle finger to her colonial facade. Neighbors gathered at the fence, not hers, mine, some with popcorn, others snapping pics for the group chat. "About time someone stood up to her," muttered old Mr. Jenkins from across the street, a widower who'd clashed with Karen over his untrimmed roses. Word of the cabin spread, and suddenly my ranch listings reignited interest. The drama was catnip for buyers. Own the property that humbled the HOA tyrant. Tina joked during our weekly call. Offers trickled in, lowballs mostly, but one stood out. A family from California. Eco-conscious parents with 3 kids who adored the lake and vowed to honor its wild side. We negotiated up to 1.1 num, contingent on clear title, which meant squashing the HOA nonsense once and for all. Karen, sensing the tide turning, escalated. She filed a formal complaint with the county, alleging the cabin violated setback rules, a lie, as surveys proved otherwise. Then came the anonymous reviews. 1-star slams on my realtor's page, whispers of shady dealings in the community newsletter she edited. It got personal when I found my driveway littered with no trespassing signs, hers staked crookedly overnight. Elena fired back, a certified letter warning of defamation suits backed by screenshots of her posts. The board backpedaled, issuing a mealy-mouthed retraction, but damage lingered. Karen's allies thinned. Even her husband started avoiding eye contact at the mailbox. As the cabin framed up, timber beams slotting like puzzle pieces, roof trusses crowning the peak, I hosted an open house for the California family. They toured the ranch, oohing over the lake, the new fence a badge of honor in my pitch. Privacy guaranteed, no meddlers allowed. They signed the intent that night, escrow spinning up. But Karen wasn't out. She plotted in shadows, her next move a doozy that had dragged the whole neighborhood into the fray. Little did she know I'd anticipated it, with a counterpunch that'd leave her reeling. Fall deepened, leaves turning the willows to fire as the cabin neared completion. Electricians wired the interior, plumbers snaked lines from the main house, and I selected finishes. Reclaimed wood floors, a stone fireplace that roared to life in test runs. It felt like victory incarnate, this little outpost defying her domain. The California deal closed smoothly, keys handed over on a breezy November day, my bank account swelling with the windfall. I moved into a condo in town temporarily, overseeing the final touches remotely, but Willow Creek pulled me back like a magnet. Unfinished business. Karen's counterpunch landed via certified mail, a lawsuit threat from her attorney, a bottom feeder named Pritchard who'd handled every HOA spat for years. It claimed intentional infliction of emotional distress, citing the fence as a spite structure and the cabin as retaliatory encroachment. Emotional distress? I nearly choked on my latte. Elena shredded it in her response. Motions to dismiss, demands for sanctions, painting Karen as the serial complainant with a history of frivolous filings. The county court laughed it off at preliminary hearing. Judge, a no-nonsense woman named Vargas, eyed Pritchard like yesterday's trash. "This smells of abuse of process," she ruled, slapping costs on Karen's side. Her war chest drained, pride punctured, but the real sting came community-wide. The HOA's annual dues vote loomed, and Karen's crusade had alienated half the board. Petitions circulated against her chairmanship, signatures from folks she'd find over bird feeders or holiday inflatables. Mr. Jenkins led the charge, his roses now a symbol of rebellion, trimmed just enough to mock her standards. At the vote, held in the clubhouse amid twinkling Christmas lights she'd once policed, Karen lost by a landslide, 62-18. She slunk out early, minivan peeling away, her empire crumbling like dry leaves. With the ranch sold and Lot 47 transformed, I rented the cabin short-term through Airbnb, marketing it as the Karen-proof retreat, lakeside serenity with zero drama. Bookings flooded in, couples escaping city stress, anglers chasing trophy bass, even a writer seeking inspiration amid the willows. Reviews glowed. Felt like owning the wild. That fence? Best feature ever. Total privacy. Profits rolled enough to fund my next flip, but Willow Creek lingered in my rear view as a cautionary tale. Yet as winter blanketed the lake in frost, a final twist emerged. Karen listed her colonial for sale. Fire sale price $200K under market, her husband's weary face in the listing photo. Whispers said divorce papers were filed, her antics the final straw. Buyers shied, tainted by the aura of conflict, and the property sat, a ghost in her perfect neighborhood. I drove by once, snow crunching under tires, the fence standing sentinel, cabin lights warm against the dusk. Karma served cold. But wait, there's more to this saga, a postscript that ties it all up with a bow of pure poetic justice. Coming right up in the final chapter, spring thawed Willow Creek into a riot of color. Crocuses poking through snowmelt as I returned for the cabin's grand opening. A low-key barbecue for loyal renters and select neighbors. The kind of event Karen would have gate-crashed with a ruler for tablecloth symmetry. The air hummed with laughter, grills sizzling burgers, kids splashing at the lake's edge under watchful eyes. Mr. Jenkins manned the cooler, dispensing wisdom and IPAs, while Tina networked potential flips. The cabin shone, wraparound deck furnished with Adirondack chairs, the hot tub bubbling invitingly. Lake views unobstructed save for that glorious fence. Karen's colonial still languished on the market, staging pristine but stigma sticky. Her for sale sign sagged in the yard, a mirror to the one she'd decried on mine. Pritchard, her lawyer, had ghosted after the sanctions hit his wallet, and the HOA board, now reformed under Hal's steady hand, issued a public apology for the overreach in my case, dues frozen for the year as penance. It was a new era, one where covenants bent for common sense, not caprice. I hadn't spoken to her since the crew confrontation, but fate, that cheeky puppeteer, orchestrated a finale. One balmy afternoon, as I inspected the dock repairs, a U-Haul rumbled up her drive. Movers hauled boxes, her boxes, while she directed from the porch, face gaunt, hair limp without its usual spray. Her husband loaded the minivan, kids' photos tucked under arm, the family fracturing under her weight. She spotted me across the fence, pausing mid-command, our eyes locking through the chain link like bars in a confessional. No words exchanged, just a nod, mine slow, acknowledging the end of hostilities. Hers curt, a white flag of defeat. As the truck pulled away, bound for who knows where, maybe a condo in Florida far from fences and feuds, her lot, no, her life, emptied out. The new owners? A quiet couple from Texas, retirees who bought low and promised Jenkins they'd let the roses run wild. I raised a toast that night on the deck. Lake mirroring stars, the cabin's lights casting golden pools. Willow Creek had been my battleground, Karen my nemesis, but in the quiet it transformed. Not just a win, but a lesson in boundaries, literal and otherwise. The ranch's spirit lingered in the water's ripple, Grandpa's legacy secured. And me? On to the next chapter, properties waiting, Karen's be damned. If this tale of lakeside payback had you hooked, smash that like button. If you've got an HOA horror story, share it in the comments. We might feature it. Don't forget to subscribe for more epic revenge sagas every week, and hit the bell so you're first in line. Thanks for watching. Stay savage out there.